Okay, everyone, so we are back from Bergen Kjøtt, and we are ready to do a different kind of panel. So my name is Tora, I'm from Konsept X, and I will host you through this panel dialogue thing. We have invited different persons in the Bergen scene, working with some of the questions that we are posing today. I won't read everything, you have had it in the description, but I will just explain you briefly the form of this conversation, because we wanted to do it in a little different way, just because we have a lot of people working with great things here that we wanted to kind of meet together and to get to know each other more. So what we will have here today, we have teamed them up 2 and 2, and they have prepared a little something for us, some questions that they will ask and talk with each other about, so that we can get to know them through this. And we will all sit here through this. We'll have 4 couples, and then we open it up for questions and comments from the audience. And I know that Eva said that we will be taking questions from the persons at home, and I'm not quite sure how. Tine, you probably did you look at your phone? Yes. Yeah. So maybe I will look at my phone, and that's the reason, to see if there's anything coming in. So then I would like to introduce you. I will ask everyone to say their names and their pronouns, so that we know that. And we take Eva and Bertha. You can start for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dora. My name's Eva, or Eva, for those friends in the UK. Eva Rosen, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm the daglig leder at Bergen Kjøtt, which means I'm in charge of everything. And I also co-run Golden Jar, which is a project I run with Sophia Hamnes. Hi, if she's watching at home, to support and centre and provide a network for different musicians and technicians working both on and off stage who identify as female, trans or non-binary.
Oh, okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you. I was just so into what you were saying. My name is Bertha. I am from Hong Kong. I just moved here in July. And I have a startup called Drastic Social. It's educational events for everyone. And I will explain that later. Yes, and my pronoun is she and her. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So it's really nice to start with you, Bertha, because actually you've just recently moved into Bergen Kjøtt, so we're also getting to know each other. And so I wondered if you could start by telling us a bit more about how and why you started Drastic Social, what it is, and particularly how it's developed in the last 6 months since you started it in March.
Yes. Drastic Social has been a concept for many years now. It's just that I have been trying to conceptualize how it's best to implement, because it's between more of a normative cisgender world and everyone that feels more marginalized about their identity. I myself being queer, but I am with a cisgender male partner. I feel like there are a lot of things I have dispute or conflict with my partner talking about my world and the people in it. It means that, it might sound quite controversial to say it, but it's true that in many cisgender people's world, they don't know any queer or LGBT people. So in my mind, how do I bridge the two and let them just learn with each other and create harmony? It's to have events or a space where people can learn about things that they never were taught or talked about, and things that are more taboo to discuss. Especially in Hong Kong, my environment is very conservative, so to have a safer space for this is not easy. But this year I have teamed up with LGBT plus nightclub in Hong Kong, and so usually they will have nightclub events at 11. So before that, there is a space, a time and space where I can actually go in and invite my guests to talk about topics, different topics that people are always curious to know about, but never dare to ask. So yeah, that's how I started my events in Hong Kong, having this concept in mind. And we've done a few events, and then Corona happened, and I also have to move here, and that's it. Yeah, that's how I'm here now, and hoping maybe I can do the same thing here for now.
And I wondered how you see Drastic Social interacting or collaborating with institutions, like you said, finding these spaces where there perhaps isn't a program or they're available or empty for a period of time. Or do you see yourself working more with artist-led or independent groups, or could you see Drastic Social collaborating with more institutional institutions like Bergenschott or Bergenkunsthal?
I'm still just learning about the culture and the environment and everything here. So right now I don't have a set thing that I wanted to do yet. But I can see this space has a lot of structure to implement, because I feel like if I have to think about both sides, if there is both, two sides, it's that everyone feel a little bit vulnerable when they have to confront other people of something they are not to ask, or their own beliefs. And so it has to be educational. But at the same time, because I love partying, I feel like I can't just sit there and have like a seminar with all the things listed on the screen to teach you all these things. And interaction is so important. So in my mind, ideally there will be these events before a nightclub events where people learn about certain subjects and reflect a little bit, and then learn, especially the language as well, to maybe interact with more people. And so yeah, like it could be collaboration with institutions, but also groups, because for what I think it should be is that everyone who's never had experience to throw events, or in an environment where they can express what they want to do, needs to be there to first try it out. So yeah, they have to work together as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it's my turn asking you. I need to take my phone out there when I write. So my first question for you is regarding creating safer space as a venue. Could you tell us a challenge that Bergenschott has faced, which turned out to be a great learning experience?
Yeah, and I realize I read the question wrong when you wrote it earlier. So now I try and talk about it. But I guess when I said earlier that my role as darkly leader means I'm in charge of everything, and I say that, and then I laugh. But at the moment, because I am the only employed member of staff here, it means that when I think about this venue and how to make it safe for the people that are working here and the people that are here in the audience and on stage, I'm really in charge of every tiny bit, from how we're seating tonight, using the meter ruler, taping the floor, working out how the drinks will be served, the communication, but also the signage around the building, what facilities we have, what facilities we don't have, how what we're doing is communicated in the building. So I feel like this is all a part of learning how to run an institution, and that's still the challenge, but it's still the learning curve. And I think what you said before about doing it with other people is something that I'm feeling like I need more and more, both with the people who are in the building. There are about 80 people who are working here on a daily basis in their studios, to understand how they feel about the space, what is safe for them, what makes an important workspace for them, but also the people coming. And we talked before about user experience, and to try and listen to actually, to try and break away from just my perspective of assuming what safe means, but actually trying to listen much more to multiple voices who are both using the building, working here, living here in a way. So I don't know, that's sort of been the biggest challenge really, how to make space for listening to people.
The learning experience is that we have to keep going and learn what is best for others by asking them what they need, right? Yeah,
exactly. That's
okay.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. And my second question: with the diversity of events and audiences Bergenstedt had been hosting, any interesting things happened, especially during Corona time?
Yeah, it's been a very, I think in terms of this experience of how to create a space where people feel safe, at the moment it's safe. The word safe comes in lots of levels, how you feel present in the space, how you feel acknowledged, but also how you just feel safe in terms of infection control. And all of that has been a huge learning experience, and still ongoing, and still trying to work out what makes a safe space in multiple ways. But also the program here, so as Tina and Tore said, for these few months we've collaborated with Bergen Kunsthaus, so they have installed their sound system and brought their technical expertise and their staff here to Bergenstadt, because we have a bigger venue than the landmark venue at Bergen Kunsthaus, which means together we can host different events. But I guess one interesting thing that I'm kind of observing, or we're all observing through the program, is that now with limited capacity, with more pressure on needing to sell out concerts because you're not doing so many, or because you don't have as many ticket income coming in, and also thinking about maybe you might be doing an event which might be cancelled or might have to go online. The program that we've had this autumn, it's been amazing, and there's been a lot of local artists and promoters and groups that have used this space. But also I feel like it has been very imbalanced in terms of diversity, or the program has been very heavily led by white cisgender male. And that's not like to say that what we've had here has not been fantastic, and together there has been a really brilliant program, and it's supporting a lot of people beyond just who's on stage, the technicians, the promoters, the people that hang the posters. But it's just an interesting kind of reflection that what happens when those kind of terms are squeezed, of people needing to make money, needing to sell out concerts, us needing to kind of be sure of what we're doing. Like that move to maybe take risks, or to open up the doors beyond our own like usual ways of seeing who we involve in our program. I just wonder if things are kind of perhaps relying on what we know, rather than continually kind of looking for what we don't know and what we and who we don't know. So it's something that I'm just like reflecting on the last few months, of how like in these pressured times when economy, safety, risk is all really compromised, how do we keep like pushing open this network of people who are on stage and off stage?
Do I have time to ask a little bit more questions? Yeah, okay. So with the two questions combined, I'd like to ask one more thing about, as a minority, what kind of things that Bergenstadt doing to give more equity to the marginalized groups, and how are you helping this group of people? Give them space and all that.
I hope that one thing that has come out of this collaboration and kind of putting collaboration, I guess, before competition in a way. And having the landmark system here, it's meant that we have been able to host other groups who maybe have lost their space during coronavirus or don't have a public space to host events, or have had a space but it's too small. So through the program, we've been able to collaborate with groups who are representing minorities or people who don't usually find their way into the more mainstream cultural field, by being able to have this building and to have this equipment and being able to share it in hopefully a kind of hospitable way. And I feel like, maybe on the flip side of not being able to host as many things, then it's meant that we also have been able to use the downtime when this equipment is installed, where we're in a different space now to Landmark, where there is usually a cafe. And when I talk about these things, I'm interested in like the economics of how the cafe supports Landmark and Kunsthal to do what they do. But when you don't have a cafe and you can use this space for a group, for example, Leila is here from Papillon, and now Papillon are using this space every Thursday to do workshops with Konsept X, DJ workshops and a choir. Like, we can use this space now in a way that we couldn't before, and we couldn't without the landmark system. So somehow there are things which are being made possible with this collaboration at the same time as it's maybe in the kind of public money-making events, restricting what's possible.
Well, thank you so much for your explanation. I hope that my questions bring out some reflection for the rest. Thank you.
Thank you both. I realize now, sitting here, because this is a different format, and also because of the situation, we actually have to sit with our backs. So feel free to turn around. It's just like Eva said, we have gone around here with the meter to the chair, so we just have to try to make this work. So for you in the panel as well, if you want to turn, it's fine, because the seats are set. So I think we just move on to Inish and Stina, and you can introduce yourself and do your little part. And I also want to say to the contestants, thank you for being part of this kind of experiment with the format, and that all the ways you have solved it is fine. Like, listening to the others, if you're thinking like, oh, they did it this way, it's fine. We want to listen to all of you in your way, right? So Inish and Stina. Yeah.
Can I just want to comment on what you said. That's okay? Yeah? I actually really like what you said, because it's kind of like, in this special situation, we realize that you're kind of forming like a bigger ecosystem of interdependence. And it's also that, when you talk about how to overcome a crisis, it's like, are you going to do it alone, or are you going to do it together with someone else? And a crisis can form us to make these new connections that can actually strengthen us and help us overcome the next crisis, which is going to come undoubtedly. So I think that's a really good takeaway from what you said. And my name is Stina. So I do a lot of things, but I work for a minority political think tank called Minotank. And so I just write and do things like this. And then I also work with prevention of radicalization and violent extremism. And I also work with, how can I say, inclusion in the startup scene, and like securing universal access to entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. Hey, I'm Inish. I use the pronoun they and them. And what did you?
No, I just feel so stupid. I forgot to say my pronouns.
I know.
My pronouns are she and her.
Thank you. And I work in SAGA, which stands for Sexuality and Gender Acceptance. What I do is actually a lot of things, but it's basically creating community and trying to also think outside of the box and connecting people and collaborating with other communities as well. and we work with education and also just internally creating and creating and creating. Yeah. I'm also an artist, and as a DJ, I also work sometimes. Yeah.
So when I mean, they asked me to ask you some questions, and I was like, who are they? And but I was wondering, because I see that, or my impression is that you do a lot of community-based work, and so I was wondering, what's your perception of the notion of community? Like, what does community mean? And also, what do you think is the best Norwegian translation of the term community?
I love this question so much, especially because of the Norwegian translation part, because I do think a lot about this when I write applications and when I talk with people in Norway as well about creating community. And this word is hard to find, I feel, in Norwegian. I love the word community, and I use it every day, all the time. But in Norwegian, I know that some people use samfunn, which is basically society in English, directly translated. And maybe kind of it is, but for me, there's something about community that it's home, you know, it's the feeling of connecting with people, and it's feeling love, feeling safer experiences. And I know that society is not safe for everyone, right now, at least. We have a lot to work on as a society. So I don't know if this word is perfect, samfunn. And we also have another word called fellesskap, which I like. I don't use it that much because in Norwegian I choose the word community. Even though it's English, I hope that people understand. But fellesskap is also a nice word. Yeah.
I think that's a nice dissection. Yeah, and I think fellesskap, it plays a little bit on what she said, or this interdependence, you know. Yeah, so that's cool. And then what was the other thing I was asking you? Yeah, now what do you think are the strengths and weaknesses of this communities based on a common identity?
I didn't get to think much about this question, but first, like seeing what community is, and at least feeling in this room, feeling that I'm a part of or identify with a lot of communities. Sorry, what was the
What do you think are the strengths and the weaknesses of community-based, identity-based communities, or communities based on a common identity?
I definitely feel like it's really great to have a place where you can belong and feel that you can develop. I feel that there's a lot of strengths, and I don't necessarily see that many weaknesses right now, at least, with having communities, because it's really empowering to be able to go to a place or community. It doesn't have to be a physical place. It can also be a digital community, which I think is important in these days, that you can't really always meet. So creating digital communities and also finding language to include people digitally, I think is really important. I think that it's definitely a lot of strengths. Yeah. And yeah, I know that you work in a lot of organizations, and I was wondering if you have, what kind of crossings you have between these organizations.
It's a very good question, actually, and I'm really happy you asked it, because I think it can be very obvious to me, but it's not so obvious to everyone else. Everyone's like, oh, are you like, do you have multiple personalities, or, you know? But I think that like the bigger drive is kind of facilitating for a wider participation. And so I see it with a lot of the people that I work with that have this kind of polemic, extreme worldview, it's not about hatred, it's about being misunderstood so much. So you're trying to be understood, and you feel like you're making such an effort for other people to understand you, and nobody's understanding you. And so instead of begging to be included, you're just excluding the whole world. And it's the same a little bit, I think, with this issue of poverty alleviation and entrance to the work market and so on, because it's like you write the CV, you write applications, you're kind of, in a way, begging for a job, right? And then you go there and nobody wants you. And then you're like, fuck it, I'll just build my own. And then it's also, in that field, there are so many obstacles to overcome. So it's just, I think, I just want to like break all the barriers, like just break them. And so that's basically kind of the force that's uniting all the things that I do, because I think that it's all connected. Economic marginalization to political marginalization. I mean, you don't have one without the other. Like, for example, in Norway, I'm sure quite a few of you know this, but you need to have a bank ID in order to apply for things in Nav. So you can log in if you have like the lower level of security of identification, but you can't even send a message to your, not supervisor, but your whatever, your counselor, I don't even know. You can't do anything. And it's like, so many people don't have this identification, and then the institution that's supposed to secure your fundamental access to like the lowest level of material welfare, you can't even access that institution. It doesn't make any sense. And that's economic, political, social, everything.
My second question is, what emotion does this kind of work bring you? Like, how does it make you feel?
I mean, so many times it just makes me want to destroy something. And I talked to my boss yesterday, and I just said, like, this is absolute bullshit. And he said, you know what, like, if you don't take a break, maybe, I mean, it's so easy to get radicalized from doing this kind of work. And I said, if I'm not doing this work, I'll definitely be radicalized. Because it's like, you can have these thoughts and be so like, fuck, I'm gonna fucking punch someone. And then someone comes to you and be like, tomorrow I'm gonna punch that person. And it's like, no. So you're always confronted with all these worldviews. And I think for me, that's like, that's the best or most interesting thing in the world, because it's like you can't even imagine what's in other people's head. But then when they come to you and they start talking about like conspiracies or these things that they believe in, you're just like, oh shit, like, okay. And then you talk deeper and you understand kind of why they think the way that they do, and it's just like, okay then. And then I think because it's often like this type of, you see someone and you just think, oh, they're so different from me because, oh, they're trans or they're conservative or they're fundamentalist. And then it's like, once you kind of get on the inside of why they think the way that they do, they're just like, then you become equal. Before that, it's always like you put yourself in a little bit higher, a little bit lower, or whatever. But like as you humanize the other, then you're just like, we're the same. It's the same like stupidity, it's the same like shortcomings, it's the same level of understanding, just completely different framework. So it just gives me this curiosity for, curiosity I think is the right word, but also a lot of frustration.
Cool, thanks. I also wanted to add kind of to your question, because I didn't actually feel like I add so much to the strength about the community. But I feel like sometimes as a person, or especially as a minority, we can feel very alone. And we can feel that the world is against us, and we meet so many struggles all the time. And it can be so minor or major, but it's still something that we go through every day, all day long. And yeah, having this support and having this love besides us, like we can do at these events here at Bergen Kjøtt, for example, where we can come together as communities. Because I know that everyone here is probably a part of some kind of identity community, which is a new word for me, which is a really cool word that I really like. But yeah, so in this kind of room, we come together as many smaller communities and feel less alone, and feel that there is people that care, There are people that wants to understand you. There are people that can empathize with you on so many levels. And this is why I think it's really important for us to have communities, and especially now in this kind of a crisis period of time. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. And I'm actually aware that Stina, she has to leave us a little bit before, so I wanted to open up for the rest of the panel to comment on their section, because we won't have her with us the whole time. So if you want to ask her a question or comment on anything that they have been talking about now, I'm opening it up a little bit, because I just realized. Yeah, or from the room, if you want to comment on this part. Yeah.
Not working. Yeah. Hi. Yeah, listening to what you were saying about having to work in different dynamics, how do you raise difficult questions, knowing that for me, I'm new here, I don't know a lot of rules or tradition, or, how do you ask difficult questions when you really want to know something, but you know it's almost not nice to ask?
I mean, first of all, I always think it depends on the relation and the situation, right? But I do this thing also, so like when I do one-on-one, I can be very, very direct, because I know they're not going anywhere and they need my help. So I'm just like sitting there like waiting for their answer, So I think, and then it's just like the most important thing I think then is to just receive what they come with, because whatever they come with, you have an ability to kind of establish the relation or adjust or whatever it is. But when it's in a group, I think, and this could be very difficult for someone who's very analytical and so on, but it's like you have to trust that the group, that they can correct each other, or that you have to kind of just, you can't intervene too much in the relation between two people, but you can kind of try to establish a framework that makes it possible for them to actually be honest within that framework, and it can be very difficult. But for me, it's not asking the question. I haven't really been in any situations that makes it very difficult to ask a question. I think the more difficult part is how do you deal with the information coming back? Because if it's something illegal or something, I mean, obviously I'm going to have to, what am I going to do with that, So, yeah, that can be very difficult, but I think you just have to, don't ask something that you're not sure if you can take, but if you really want to get to know someone, you can't be scared of any answers.
What if you created a conflict, then how do you solve such thing?
You shouldn't be scared of conflict. It's really not that big of a deal. I mean, initially, because it's also like, as humans, I guess, we're just automatically we shy away from conflict, most of us. So when you, when I create a conflict, which I do many times, like for example, I work mostly with young men, and so many times I'll just throw out like a wildly feminist statement, and they'll be like, and then it's like there's a discussion, but then because they also don't really want to create a conflict, it's so easy to actually de-escalate once the conflict's been made, and it's just, I don't know, and then also like use laughter, use time, just use silence. With those three things, I think most conflicts can be de-escalated. But you have to have time, that's the thing. So if you're in a hurry, don't create a conflict.
Yeah, that's some good advice.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say that's also some tips for creating a safe space conversation, right? Yeah. Thank you.
I've created quite a few conflicts, and I think the time part is maybe the most important.
Thank you. So are there any questions from the audience? Yeah, you have one in the back. We will get you a mic, because that's needed. Yeah. Sorry for breaking the rules of this panel myself already. But
Hi, thank you. I have two questions. The first is, where in your work do you meet the most resistance? And the other question is, what are your thoughts about self-care doing this kind of work? Or, yeah, what are your reflections about that as a subject in relations?
Two very, very good questions. Very, very good. Okay, so the first, where do I meet the most resistance? I think I'm very quick to, when I see a problem, I'm just like, okay, we need to do something about this. So that wouldn't say it's resistance, but maybe the most difficult thing is to get someone else to actually take responsibility with you. And so for me, I don't think that, like, for example, when I feel like, shit, this is overwhelming, like, I really wish kind of that I didn't sit here with, like, the responsibility for someone else's whole well-being in my hands. But then I think, it's not that I don't want the responsibility, I don't mind the responsibility, but I wish it wasn't forced upon me alone. Or I wish, you know, that we would be more people to take it. And I think that also kind of speaks to the issue of self-care, because I feel better when I'm doing something than when I'm not doing anything, especially when I'm aware of the things that need to be done. And so what I really genuinely, what I wish for in this city and in the world at large is that more people would help share the responsibility for what needs to be done and cooperate more. And I think in terms of, for me, teamwork is key. Like, and the more kind of demanding cases I have, the more shameless I am about, like, I need help, like, you need to help me, you need to take this part of the responsibility, you need to do this, and yeah. I mean, that doesn't always feel great, but at the same time, like, if you're honest and you have people you trust, that should be okay.
Thank you. So then I think we will say thank you to the two of you for now, and we will move on to Kato and Leila. Yeah, we can do applause as well now because Stina will leave us, and you can just go when you're comfortable. So we continue with Kato and Leila. So welcome to you.
We met yesterday on FaceTime. And so I thought maybe we could just like maybe say our names and what pronouns we use, and then we can get into a conversation, kind of maybe a continuation and a recap of what we were talking about yesterday. So my name's Kato Sweeney. I'm an artist here in Bergen from France, and I've started this event called Asterisk, and I use he, him pronouns, did I say that? Yeah, okay. Well, now we double know.
My name is Leila Rasouk.
One more time. Wait a minute.
Okay.
We're waiting for the sound. Thank you.
I am. Yes, we talked yesterday after I put my kids in bed, and it was nice. I'm looking forward to continue the conversation. I am a leader of NGO here in Bergen. The name of the NGO is Papillon, and it's a French word. It means butterfly. And we work with for social inclusion and with a lot of cross-cultural young women and men. Yes. There is nothing with the young men. It's just that I am a bit thirsty. Yes.
Could you talk maybe a bit more for those who don't know? Because I had heard of Papillon more recently because there was an event that happened here in Bergen Shot and Konsept X with the DJ set. But for those who don't know what Papillon, could you say a little bit more about what you guys do and how you came to form? If it's you working alone, and what type of actions you do.
Yes, I can. We started in 2016, and we started first with young women, and it was because I felt like a lack of arena. Can we say that? Places, safe spaces for young women with cross-cultural background. And now it's 2020, and we have. First, it was totally volunteer work, like a lot of volunteers and myself and the board, and but now we are like two working 100%. I am the leader, and we have a social worker, people from with different very like health background and economy and humanitarian background, and they're really burned and very engaged for the work we're doing with social inclusion. So today we teach at schools and high school students, pupils, or videregående skole. And but like today I was like in the university and teaching for master students, working with psychology and prevent work. Yeah.
This got me thinking to what we were talking about last night, and used a word that I hadn't heard before. I knew of the phenomena of it, but I didn't know you said, talking about coming from a cross-cultural background, sometimes you face what you called negative social control.
Yes.
Could you talk a bit more about what this is?
Yes.
And, yeah.
It's about like where I come from. I am born in France, and my parents are from Morocco. And sometimes you can. I'm not like generalizing this, but in some group with a cross-cultural background, you like the parents or the brother can control your life, decide what kind of choices you can you want to take for your life. If it's studies or the person you want to hang out with, or how you should dress. Yeah, so you cannot decide or take your own choice, and it can result to like consequences. It can be very hard for your life, and you can be prosecuted and get you can it's the worst you can experience can be like living a double life that your family doesn't know nothing about, or your own friends, or your sister and brothers, and other people from your community, and it can also result like your mental health get very bad, and it's difficult to reach out. Like for me, it was like difficult to reach out like at school. I couldn't talk about that because my own people, I couldn't trust my own people. So how should I trust the society where I live? In the same time that I experienced that my parents were experiencing so much racism in our where I grown up, and you know how it is in France. Now I feel that I don't have to go back to talk about that, but today when I think about that, I understand. I can kind of understand my parents, and today my parents can understand me. And I'm not saying that it's like this with everyone, because it's very individual, and it's how you choose to kind of how you how you. It's about how you process, and if how you process this trauma and how you process the way you want to live your life, and how you process with the help you the help which if you can find the help. I just want to say, like, when I'm talking about reaching out help, when I came to Norway, like, for 13 years ago, and experienced negative self-control, I got sick. Like, my mental health was very bad. And I didn't know about that, because I didn't know that I could be so bad. But when I reached out help at the health care here in Norway, I didn't get understand. I get very misunderstood.
Because people don't know what it is to experience this.
Yeah, it was 13 years ago, but I reached out, and I really wanted to be better, like mentally and physically, because it really eats you. But I think the worst was like that I had to process alone, because the psychologist, like, sitting there and trying, I don't know if he was trying to understand me, but he was trying. But I felt that he really was not trying to understand me, like the whole Leila, with my culture, with my perspective, with my parents' perspective, with the cross-cultural perspective. And today it's still like, when I think about that, it's still like the frustration is still here, because it was 13 years ago, and today we should not be like the young women and boys and girls. They should not experience that. They should, when they reach out help to healthcare, I really hope that the people look at them and understand them with their cross-cultural background.
Because
yeah,
thank you for sharing. That was.
I don't know if I
no, you very much did. I was when we were talking about sharing stories and reaching out for help within people within the same community, and then you mentioned that this is something that you talk about to a larger audience. So maybe people who aren't from cross-cultural backgrounds. You go into schools and you do what you call prevention. Could you just maybe like point on maybe why this is important to your work?
Yeah.
This prevention.
As I said earlier, we started with young women, like adults. They were like 18, 20, 25 years old. And then when we understood luggage they have with them, like very heavy stories and situations, we were like thinking that we can prevent if we start with earlier, with the younger girls. And then we started to develop a course for high school pupils, and it's a 12 weeks, and it's built with cross-cultural perspective. And then we were working on that. When we were finished with the program, we were like thinking that this course it's for everyone. It can be for any pupils from schools. And today, when we teach with, we did it now for 2 years, and it was only for cross-cultural pupils, especially with the one with the short, who has been living like very short in Norway, from not Western countries. You call it velkomstklasser, welcomes classrooms. And we got a lot of good feedback from the leaders from the schools. But then this year, we're going to start to teach for a whole classroom. And for me, it's kind of a success because it's about talking about themes which, if you are Norwegian or your parents from Somalia or from Morocco, that we can talk about these difficult themes.
And to make it okay so that we can talk about it openly.
Yes.
And not be scared.
Yeah. And what I hope we can, the result will be it's that if you are cross-cultural or not, this competency, you see it as a future skill. It's a skill to be it's skills to be cross-cultural. It's skill that you acknowledge that you can this about cross-cultural competency because we need it. And me or other girls that work with us or are working or are part of the organization, we all see each other with our strengths and as a resource. It's yeah. I have some question for you. So, I was hoping that maybe since you're from France, that maybe we could speak more French, but then I was like, no.
We're just helping be each other's translators, maybe.
Yes, I was wondering, no, I wanted to ask you about your engagement, about building the queer community, both in France and Bergen. How does it come? And yeah.
So I came out as transgender. I think I'm not really good at keeping dates, but it feels like maybe like 5 years ago or something. And I started going out clubbing, and that's where I'd find my community was on the dance floor. And I was specifically going to this one night that was organized by Pure. I shouldn't use that word pure. What is pure? But a full, a full trans lineup of people who were producing it on stage and with allies as invited. And so I'd start going to these nights and dancing, and it made me feel very strong as a person from being a baby trans and seeing these trans people who were doing their shit really well and making music. And I'd go and see them the first time and it was their first set, and then I'd see them like, I don't know, like a year later, and they would be like the progression and just like support that was within that community in the nighttime. And then I came on exchange to Bergen because I studied art. And when I came here, the first thing I did was look up on my phone on Google queer Bergen, and nothing came up. So then I put gay Bergen, and then Finken came up, and so I was like, okay, at least we have one space, but we only have one space. And so I went to Finken and had a beer, and then they kicked me out at 3 o'clock. And so I was a bit confused about, well, if we only have this one place to go to, and we only have a certain time you can go to, how are you supposed to find a community? And I think specifically within the queer community, it's one that happens quite often in the nighttime with parties and within the whole history of music as well, queer musicians that often aren't. But disco, for instance, was very much a queer movement. And so that's when I was feeling all of this frustration coming from France and having this really nice night scene, and then coming to Norway and having a lack of that. And then it kind of came to a point where I realized, well, if I can't see what I want to see, then I have to be what I want to see. And I knew that you have to be proactive to create community. You have to sometimes be that first person to reach out and say, hey, I'm missing this. And by saying, I miss this, this is where you find other people. Because this is how we met with Anish, was we were both frustrated at the gendered toilets and not understanding why that was a thing. So it's by saying out loud that you're missing something that you can find it and building that scene. And that's what I'm trying to do with Asterisk, which is to create a queer transgender platform where people can come and be alive in the nighttime, and that can be art, it can be performance, it can be many things. And yeah, because of COVID, it's a little difficult right now to dance in squares, and I don't even know if we're allowed to dance. Are we?
Eva says no.
No, so no dancing. But what I'm doing now is, because of COVID, it's going to be a film club for the minute. If we can't dance, then we can watch films together. And so we've got, with the support of Saga, for the first Trans Awareness Week in Norway, it's happening in Bergen, and we're going to have trans films from all over the world. And I don't know if I answered all.
Yes, you did. Are the challenges and the advantages you faced both in France and in Bergen the same, or are they totally different?
The difference was, I think, the laws. We talked a little bit about this, about how you have to leave. I'm not quite sure, so maybe don't quote me, but I feel like most places you have to leave at 3 o'clock, or they stop in Norway.
Yeah.
In Norway. And even if you want to buy alcohol at Vinmonopolet, you have to really, really organize yourself to not run at 3 o'clock in the afternoon because it closes. So I think it makes getting together quite a challenge, because you have to be organized, and it doesn't allow for the spontaneity. How do you say that word? Spontaneity. Anyway, it doesn't allow to just like be free and walk around and do this kind of like meeting up, and also kind of, you need a place to go, or you need an event that clearly can say this is queer, this is this, so you know you can go to that place. And if it's saying we don't accept any forms of ism, sexism, racism, then you know you can go there, you can dance, and you're not going to have some creep be a creep. You can just go there and be safe. And so I think it allows people to enter spaces feeling more safe already before going. And that's what, the aim is to do after, is to make a place where you can do this, and to have it change location, so you can go to multiple places, and then to kind of leave a fragment of those inclusion values we have. And the difference has been, so a lot in the legal terms as well. That's been a challenge, I think, for myself. Thinking, you can only be political in the daytime in Norway. I don't think that's true. Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're going to allow some comments from you as well to this, because I see a lot of nodding and smiling. So if you want to, if you want to ask or comment to their part as well. Or did you finish? I'm sorry. Since she broke in, I'm sorry.
I was wondering how did Corona influence or challenge you in your engagement? Could you? You said that you stopped, but how did you manage to continue to be still engaged in this here in Bergen?
I think what Corona helped do it put us a lot on pause. Everyone had to go on pause. Anyone who was making events or wishing to make events had to be on pause for security reasons, for safety, because we didn't know what was going on. And I think this allowed a time where people got to reflect about what was normal and just like to slow the whole procedure down rather than produce. What is success? Is it a room that is like sold out? Or is it a room of like, I don't know, 20 cool people here and some online? And like, is it just numbers? And so I think it just made us slow down and reflect. And also, this is how we all met. All of us.
I guess
I
all
met
of us.
all of you on virtually before. Well, I mean, apart from a couple of people, but most of the room I met virtually before I met in person, and so this allowed us to come together with crossovers of what we're striving to try and work towards, and learning from each other. Like, I wouldn't have been able to learn what Papillon is doing if I hadn't like taken time to slow down, and events like this would have happened. And I'm very like grateful that we can do this in this time, even if maybe we're not allowed to dance. But yeah. But
Thank you.
no, thank you. I was just. Do I have time to ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Could you talk maybe a bit about what's the plans for the future? Because I know we all maybe not all of us, but sometimes as people who create communities, we come from a place of hurt, and that's why we seek out community. But sometimes the questions we'd like to be asked is, what's next? What's something that isn't about me, which is about what I'm doing as work? So could you maybe talk about what's next for Papillon?
What's next for us? I have to say that Corona for us was kind of, I know I cannot say it like that, but it was kind of positive things too, because we really had to change our way to work. Of course, digital communication with our all the girls and boys we were connected to. It was not the best at all. It was feeling like a double isolation. So we had to do it, but we didn't like it. And but now it's like we met so many people who have such great collaboration with the with the Bergenstadt, with Konsept X, with the oh my God, you have to help me. But a lot of great communication with artists, music, Borealis, and more and more youth people, with young people who realize, who understand what we stand for, and how they can be a part of the organization, but also process themselves to be the person they want to be, and we will start develop our ideas. We have a lot of ideas, if it's in culture or in art, or we started a choir in collaboration with Bergenstadt and Festspill Kollektivet. And we see that there are so many young girls, most girls who they have a talent, and now they understand that being a part of the organization, they can exploit it and see how they're going to, what they're going to be, and they can have the support to flourish. And then they can fly. But one more thing, I really want to continue, or to be very more strong in our organization. It's the with standing for love and empowerment, equity, and inclusion. we will work more to develop like very kind of a strong policy for diversity, if it's in different institutions or out in the hjälp mig arbetslivet.
Work life.
Yes.
Or something like that.
We want to work on that because we see many of our participants, if I can call them like that, they are saying very loudly that we need more representation, and because we need it. We need it here in Bergen, and we need it in other country, but other city in Norway. And I really mean that, and I think that Bergen, they are very good and can be very better on that. But change happen. Just sitting here and be a part of this panel and listening to you, Daniela, it's big, it's huge, and I really hope that it will motivate other young people here in Bergen to feel like free to be a part of this kind of panel in the future. And this is what we still are going to work on in Papillon.
Thank you. Applause for that. And we will move on to the last pair here to make it in time. Now we're going to talk with Tina and Nikima. Is your cord okay? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please.
I'm exhausted.
How is it with the time, by the way?
So
it's like 8 minutes left now?
Yeah, for your and a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, but so people can relax, we will have them. Then we have a few questions, and then we'll do a short rig, and then we'll have a dance performance. So yeah, now you know the plan.
Cool.
Yeah.
So how do you do this? Who's gonna start?
No idea.
The thing is, we have already met. So just like the short one, Nikima.
Oh right.
Tina.
Introduction.
And,
yeah.
her, she, whatever.
Honestly, I don't have a preference. So yeah, you can use whatever pronouns you'd like for me. Nikima. Yeah.
I'm just like, we are the aliens, or not aliens, but we have been in Bergen for like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, a little less.
I think you were in quarantine.
I just got out 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been in a glass box in my office working with deadlines for 2 weeks. This is the first time I'm actually in public space-ish, without 2 exceptions.
The coffee shop, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, but like this many people, it's actually quite unusual. And they're very nice, speaking about communities.
It's much nicer than the people that I experienced walking up the mountain over and over again.
I'm just wondering, maybe we just have to do like a super short introduction, because some were not following the first part tonight. So, do you want I know you a bit. You've been from New York, Brussels, and now you're in Bergen to do a project uncertain time, really, because of the virus and everything.
Yeah,
but
crazy.
You're anyway going to do a project at the Kunsthal and doing an open call. So could you just introduce the work and your art?
Yeah, so I'm here just for a couple of months. I was invited by Scott. Not sure where he is. And yeah, I'm a choreographer. So I make these works that are sort of like, I don't know, ecosystems of sorts, or environments that involve many different elements. And of course, being somebody coming from the world of dance and feeling like some sort of dance medium. There's always a strong dance element, but I like to work with a lot of different people, and I think the work itself also takes on the different interests of the people that I work with. So in this context, at the Kunsthal, I'm doing a piece called Basically, and it's going to involve, I mean, I'm working a lot with some musicians, a composer in New York that I've been working with for a long time, so there's a very musical element to it, creating these kind of scores for guitar and things that will happen sort of long form in Ableton, pre-recorded as well as live, and it will also turn into a vinyl at some point, and then I'm also working with more like magical esoteric practices. So like we're going to be casting the I Ching every day, and which is it's like a divination practice or like an oracle kind of. Yeah, it's an oracle basically.
Are you the oracle?
Absolutely not.
Historical.
I have a teacher, a Qigong teacher, Qigong being like an energy martial art practice, coming from Kung Fu. In New York, who I've been working with via Zoom, and she's going to be casting the I Ching with us daily. So she's been practicing for a long time. But the oracle is not really anybody. It manifests as, you know, something, yeah, how you embody it, how you understand it, etc. I'm working with another person who, Louise Trueheart, who has tie-dyeing as like a big part of her practice. So we're going to be tie-dyeing these hoodies and screen printing, basically, and she also has this practice of doing these like shrine readings, and sometimes, yeah. So, anyways, all of this just to say that like what I'm working on here is like assembling these different elements, creating a space where these can all happen and overlap, and kind of create a context for like different narratives of relationality to arise. Yeah, you were gonna say something?
Yeah, it's just that's where we connect.
That's where we connect.
So just like super short, I run Karmaklubb. That's part of the organization. What do we call it? I mean, there's so many partners. So it's not like a duo. It's like a Bergen huge love affair.
Yeah, let's call it that. A love affair.
So Karmaklubb is moving, and right now it's like Bergen, and for the third attempt. So we met because Scott, with the mask, you can't really see his face because it's covered. He's like the smittevern person today. And that's also a person I only met virtually. So finally, after 6 months of, you know, Zooming, and he just, you gotta meet Nikima.
So
that's that's the sound behind the mask. And he's not always wearing a mask, but yeah, anyway. So we met a few days ago for the first time when you could like sneak out of the quarantine and
it was my last day, I promise.
Yeah.
It was really good.
But I didn't know anything. That's sort of the point. But I think Scott had good intuitions or something, because when you talk about what you're going to do in that space, it sounds a bit abstract, I think, for someone that has not been there, or because they can't have been there. The point is being part of creating it. So. Totally. So just because the discussion is about to take off, I hope soon, if I can like brief one question or theme with you now, it would be the safe space term. And not necessarily in connection to clubbing, but in general, because we talked about the language around the space and how the language itself defines the activity and the content and the rules and the hierarchies within the space.
Totally.
So, and for that reason, I think the safe space term is a bit is a bit ambivalent. So I prefer using hybrid spaces instead, because the safe space sort of is a binary term. Because if it's not safe, it's, you know, unsafe, it's dangerous. But what you said, that sort of boom, that was...
Why did you decide on the hybrid space as instead?
Because of the thing you said, just in not the exact framework in my head, but it sort of cooks down to the same idea, I think. Because you said allowing uncertainty to exist or happen.
Right.
And that when things are in flux. So if it could be safe, as in not dangerous, but still open.
Right.
So hybrid is something that describes many things, and it's not defined what kind of things, but it's something that maybe is about being created. It doesn't really maybe exist.
Right. I mean, there's something, I think safe space as a term came out of it came out of like college, universities, like people in universities wanting to make, I mean, this is how I understand it in the US. So, but wanting to, so marginalized groups in universities wanting to create a space for themselves that is outside of the usual, like the norm of white supremacy, patriarchy, capitalism, etc., and it being run by marginalized people, created by them, run by them, occupied by them, and therefore, being space to let your guard down, as you had also talked about, Daniel, earlier. And I think that's really important to remember, that the safe space needs to be created by, by the marginalized group. I think for me, as you say, it's not about making an unsafe space, but I think, and maybe where we both connect in our work is, is this kind of a space that is non-homogeneous. So a space that has difference, a space that is like represented by its difference, and that this conglomeration of difference coming together can then create something unexpected, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and new in a way. And I think that's
amen.
Interesting and important.
But you use like, you use the gallery, but you also use like the space you move in. It's not like performance necessarily, but it's expanded idea of what an artwork is. That's how I see it, at least. It's some of the same approach, I think, that Karmaklubb has by moving. Instead of expecting the audience to, that already know the concept to come. We come to them. And
I think it's
expose.
Also, why it's really important for me also to work with locals and to get to know the environment that I'm in, and to meet people that I, rather than just like coming with a group of performers and then just occupying a space. I try not to be a settler, and like really getting to know what's already happening here. And I mean, this is a really cool introduction also, this particular one.
Just a tiny one before. I see Tora is starting to... She wants to say something, but before that, this open call of yours, it's happening soon, right?
Yeah, so if anybody wants to work with me.
Yeah, but it's like, what do you want from them? Do you necessarily know what you want?
It's a combination.
Yeah.
So I think there are certain things that I'm very specific about, like that I want. For example, like somebody who is really good at finger picking guitar melodies. But at the same time, I'm also really interested in the work developing in relation to who I meet, as I said earlier. So there's so much contingency there.
Like a dynamic space.
A dynamic space, definitely. Cool. Yeah.
Tora?
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking about opening up a little bit, because now we have had very nice introductions, and we have had many themes thrown at us. And I hope that you who have been sitting and listening have gotten to know these people a little bit, although we're kind of skipping a little bit from story to story. And I wish we had a lot more time, but just to make sure that we have a little time for questions from the audience, particularly. Of course, in between you as well, but this was really meant also so you can talk to each other afterwards, because we will have some time, at least some, within the meter distance, but still, so that you have heard about each other's work. And I think I would just want to thank you all before we open up for sharing both your stories and asking some very open and important questions about things that are local, but also I think are very universal. And I feel that there are a lot of themes that are very common across all of us. Yeah. So I'm wondering if there's any questions from the audience to this lovely group, or are you just silenced with, we got one here. You will get the mic.
Hello. So this is a question for anyone on stage, actually. Because I've always been used to the nightlife elsewhere in Europe. And as Kato, I was really frustrated with the queer nightlife here in Bergen. So last year, I tried to kind of make this concept that was more like the queer nightclubs in Europe. That's where trans people, queer people could feel freer to dress how they like or undress how they like, and dance to queer music, and not be so constrained by like the mainstream queer environment. And I got really frustrated afterwards, because when I did this, I thought, okay, this can be a safe space within an already established club. But afterwards, I felt that even though it was in a queer club, it didn't feel like a safe space. Like, I felt I was looked at weirdly, got a lot of negative comments afterwards. And then that was the night I met Inish, actually. And I think a lot of that frustration was kind of why we started Saga, like having an alternative queer space. But how do you guys think that we could make safe spaces already within established spaces? Like you talked about that it should be hybrid. Like, because if it's a safe space, we're not seen by everyone. It's about visibility. So how can we do better at showing ourselves to the majority?
Just a quick one there. I think it depends on the space and the concept, of course. But for Karmaklubb, of course I can only speak for myself, but to me it's like this huge celebration. It's about being proud and just sharing joy, and it sounds like, just as funny as the name itself, Karmaklubb. It sounds like a yoga, I don't know, a new age thing. Anyway, but it's really, you know, about having fun and joy, and that is sort of what's driven the concept the whole time. And then, I don't know, but when you gather these people and they dance and they're so happy, I think we've just been lucky not experiencing some of the things you're saying, that people, you know, treat you in a way they shouldn't in a safe space. Again, just to be, probably, it's not like I love safe space. It's just, I think it's a complicated term. So I'm kind of seeking a protected sphere where you could do your thing and be yourself. That's the whole point, being yourself no matter what, as long as you behave nice.
Yeah, and it's also how can we educate the majority? Like if we have a safe space at an already established club or venue, like how can we show the majority how to act at that place? It's like you said, Bertha, earlier, about you as a queer person have to educate your boyfriend. And yeah, and when you can talk to people, that's easy, but when you're outside and dancing and having a party, like
I would say that talking to people is not always easy either.
I'm going to speak of my own experience of throwing events in Hong Kong. So the last one I organized was for I think 5 to 6 trans non-binary people to host a night where they talk about their own experiences, what they have faced, and the majority of the audience are heteronormative. They are mostly not trans or queer because just the nature of that nightclub with a good mix of people. So they know what they're going into before going to a nightclub, like a night event. And they use that time to learn about subjects that people don't usually talk about, things that we need to educate as educators and allies, knowing what to say, what not to say. I create different speaking events for this part. But so, yeah, I hope that in the future, Inish and I, we will be doing some of these as well with Saga and Drastic Social together. Inish, do you have something to?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this topic. I'm also very happy I met you, Chris, to like vent about this very early on when I moved from Berlin, because from Berlin I came from a community where we worked a lot with safer spacing. Even though we didn't talk about it a lot, we worked a lot with awareness. So it's awareness work. It goes into coming into a venue, coming into organizing an event with the intention to make people more aware of each other, of what's happening in each other's lives, not personally, but knowing that there is a chance that discrimination can happen in this room. There is a chance that racism, homophobia, transphobia can happen in this room. Even though it's a queer event, even though we are all very much engaged in political work or whatever we like to do, because I know that a lot of us care so much about making these changes, but we don't know how. And this is when it comes to your question, Chris, which is super important, is how can we teach each other as communities to become more aware of these things, because it's so invisible sometimes that, you know, using the wrong pronoun or that little comment that made someone feel so bad in that moment because it was actually quite racist, but, you know, or ableist or ageist or homophobic or transphobic. All of this, like, we don't know exactly when we do it, but we do it, all of us, I think. We do it. So how do we teach each other to become better at this? And this is where we in Saga, we work a lot on trying to find ways to educate other organizations or communities. It could be everything from bar staff to the people running the event to, or just people that are coming to the event, guests as well. I feel that it's our responsibility as well as people that has events to do what we can do to protect ourselves and to take care of each other, and also becoming more aware of mental health, which is like, it's so important. And I think that we should really, really try at least to do what we can do in our positions to make a change in people's lives, because we have the opportunity to do that as organizers or as collectives or as communities. And I know that the word safe space is really, really tiresome sometimes. I don't use that word much, but I use safer space because it's going into a space with the awareness and with the intention of making a space safer. It's not a safe space. It's all a dangerous space for most of us, actually. And I think it was someone that, okay, can I I know I'm speaking a long time now, but I know I heard someday that someone say that if Nietzsche was alive today, he would laugh at safe spaces. And he would say that we should all go into dangerous spaces to learn, you know, and to harden our skins and to become really resilient and everything. And I'm totally for resilience and that we should work on ourselves and learn a lot. But it's so nice to go into a space and feel safe. Have you ever tried it? You know, it's like, it's amazing to go into space and feel that, whoa, like people here care about me, people are asking about my pronoun, you know, people are looking at each other like, I care about you, or like, how are you? How do you feel right now? Doing these extra things can make so much change for everyone. And it doesn't have to be this dangerous for people to go out. Because it is dangerous for people to go out, because every time you get that comment, every time you get that feeling that I'm not safe, there are people discriminating me, or there are people harassing my friends, or there's a person in the room that was like horrible or whatever, you know, like going into spaces and always feeling unsafe, it shouldn't be like that. This is not how we should live. So this is why I think it's so important with clubbing or whatever to have these places to meet and to meet with like-minded people and to meet people that care about you.
I also want to add one last thing.
Yeah.
It's that as somebody who's in between different spaces, different identity all the time, I don't know even how to explain to some of my friends, you know, opposite ways of thinking or things that they have never really experienced themselves. So the most important thing for anyone, no matter what identity they have, is that you have to hold yourself accountable. Accountability, it's a thing that we all need to learn. And to learn about this is to question ourselves what we can do better for diversity, for equality. To educate yourself and go online and learn and read is the first step. And if there's any questions that you really need to ask, or you want to create a place where you can let people ask these questions, like what I'm trying to do to throw events to have that space, is really a transformative justice that we're doing for the whole society. And that's just the basic of how we can create safer space for anyone. So if in the future anyone wants to throw events or do something that involves the community, check your accountability. see what everyone needs to do first in themselves before they think of doing things for other people. Yeah.
Thank you, Berta. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. So yeah, you talk to people afterwards, okay? I'm sorry. I wish we had more time. But I'm looking at you, Tina, and also you, Eva. Should we wrap it up now? Just to... I'm sorry, I'm supposed to lead this, but I'm just a bit...
Tina says no, but I feel like as out of respect to Shelmith, who's doing the performance afterwards, and also everyone else who's sitting in Bergen Schut, which is not the warmest place, then maybe we should keep true to the idea that this is a kick-off session, and that there will be more, and there should be more, and that there's a lot more to say and to learn. But that's because I want to keep the time.
Thank you, Eva, for helping me with that. It's just hard. And yes, it's a kick-off session. And now you have gotten to know all these lovely persons a bit more. And I think that also getting together like this, both virtually, because we have also proven that getting together virtually can actually lead to things like this, and getting in touch with individuals that you are, like if you're wondering about specific concerns, we are here to help each other. And that this is, another beginning again. I want to thank you so much for what you have shared. We will have a quick break to rearrange the space. I also want to say that Paulina Tamara, who is a photographer, she will also have some images shown over there during the break, so take a look. She's also part of our program, and then we get back in, let's say, 8 minutes for a performance by Shelmith Øseth. Thank you so much.